by Joseph Kelly on fire, passion, and transformation. The transformative flames stand before a blazing fire for a moment. Watch the dancing flames reach skyward. Feel their radiant heat against your skin. Listen to the crackle and hiss as solid matter transforms into light, heat, and ethereal smoke. Fire represents our fundamental psychological need for transformation, the requirement for sufficient motivation, direction, and creative energy to overcome inertia and manifest change. In a culture that often celebrates careful planning, safe incremental progress, and rational caution, fire's wild wisdom can seem dangerous, even reckless. This chapter explores fire as psychological energy, the activating force that enables motivation, courage, creative expression, and the catalytic transformation necessary for genuine growth. We'll examine fire's distinctive strengths and challenges, its manifestations in daily life, and practical approaches to cultivating healthy fire energy according to your unique needs and circumstances. Through this exploration, you may discover that what appears most disruptive, the capacity to kindle change, to burn through limitations, to illuminate new possibilities, actually represents one of the most essential capacities for authentic human development. Beneath the surface manifestations of human achievement lies a fundamental quality that makes meaningful action possible: the capacity for motivation. This quality manifests through several interconnected dimensions that together create the psychological engine that moves us beyond mere existence into purposeful becoming. At its core, motivation begins with desire, the capacity to want something with sufficient intensity to overcome inertia and resistance. True desire isn't merely intellectual preference, but a full-bodied wanting that activates the entire organism toward purposeful action. This passionate engagement allows you to move beyond mere duty or obligation into the realm of authentic commitment, action fueled not by external pressure, but by internal fire. Consider for a moment how different your experience feels when you engage in activities from genuine desire versus mere obligation. When authentic desire drives your actions, energy flows naturally, attention focuses effortlessly, and even challenges become opportunities for creative engagement rather than burdensome obstacles. This qualitative difference reveals the transformative power of connecting with what truly matters to you beyond social expectations or conditioned shoulds. Your relationship with desire profoundly shapes your capacity for meaningful action and fulfillment. Many people experience complex barriers to authentic wanting. Fear that desire will lead to disappointment, belief that wanting is selfish or dangerous, childhood conditioning that certain desires are unacceptable, or simple disconnection from bodily wisdom through excessive rationality. These barriers create a dampened relationship with motivation where action requires willpower rather than flowing from genuine enthusiasm. Neuroscience research on intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation illuminates why this distinction matters so profoundly. When you act from internal desire, intrinsic motivation, your brain activates reward circuits that release dopamine during the activity itself rather than only upon completion or external reward. This neurochemical response creates a state of engaged flow where effort feels energizing rather than depleting. Conversely, acting primarily from external pressure, extrinsic motivation, requires constant self-regulation that depletes rather than generates energy, creating the familiar experience of burnout that accompanies prolonged action without authentic desire. Developing healthy relationship with desire involves both permission to want and discernment about which desires truly serve your authentic development. This balance recognizes that not all impulses warrant action, but that genuine flourishing requires connection with motivational fire beyond mere compliance with external expectations. The question becomes not whether desire itself is good or bad, but whether particular desires align with your deepest values and authentic nature. This reconnection with authentic desire often begins through simple practices of noticing what naturally energizes you, what activities create a sense of time disappearing, what topics spark genuine curiosity, what purposes feel meaningful beyond social validation. These explorations gradually rebuild neural pathways, connecting consciousness with motivational systems that may have been suppressed through educational or social conditioning that prioritized compliance over authentic engagement. Beyond immediate desire, motivation requires vision, the capacity to imagine possibilities that don't yet exist, and to maintain focus on these potentials despite obstacles or competing demands. This visionary capacity allows you to navigate toward meaningful horizons rather than merely responding to immediate circumstances, creating direction that transforms random movement into purposeful journey. Consider how fundamentally vision shapes the meaning and effectiveness of action. Without clear destination, even vigorous movement may lead nowhere in particular, creating activity without achievement, effort without fulfillment. Conversely, with compelling vision, even modest daily actions accumulate toward meaningful outcomes, creating the profound satisfaction that comes from witnessing incremental manifestation of what was once mere imagination. Your relationship with visionary thinking significantly impacts your experience of purpose and meaning. Some people maintain continuous connection with desired futures, naturally translating abstract possibilities into concrete mental images that guide daily choices. Others struggle to generate or sustain clear vision, either gravitating toward immediate concerns without larger context or creating vague aspirations without specific imagery that could guide implementation. These differences profoundly influence how effectively desire translates into achievement. Neuroscience research on prospection, the mental simulation of future possibilities, demonstrates this capacity's crucial role in effective human functioning. When you create detailed mental representations of desired futures, your brain activates many of the same neural circuits involved in actual experience, essentially creating pathways that make manifestation more likely. This mental rehearsal primes perceptual systems to notice relevant opportunities, strengthens goal-directed behavior in the face of distractions, and increases probability of recognizing progress that might otherwise go unnoticed. Developing visionary capacity involves both expansion of imaginative range and refinement of specific focus, dreaming big enough to inspire passionate engagement while defining concrete outcomes specific enough to guide effective action. This dual movement prevents both the limitation of small dreams and the dispersion of vague aspirations, creating visions that serve as genuine navigational beacons rather than either modest targets or unreachable fantasies. This visionary development often begins through intentional practices of future-oriented imagination, creating detailed mental pictures of desired outcomes, exploring how achievement would look and feel across multiple sensory dimensions, clarifying specific indicators that would demonstrate progress, and connecting long-term aspirations with immediate next steps. These explorations strengthen neural networks involved in prospection while building psychological bridge between current reality and desired future. Vision without action remains mere fantasy, which is why motivation requires courage, the capacity to move toward meaningful goals despite fear, discomfort, or uncertainty. This courageous quality allows you to enter unknown territory, attempt activities beyond current mastery, and risk failure in service of growth rather than remaining safely within familiar limitations. Consider how essential courage is for meaningful development in any domain. Learning new skills inevitably involves awkward beginners phases where competence hasn't yet caught up with understanding. Neuroscience research on fear and anxiety illuminates why courage represents skill rather than merely personality trait. When you repeatedly approach rather than avoid growth-related discomfort, you gradually recalibrate your threat detection system's sensitivity. Developing courage involves progressive expansion of capability through calibrated challenge, starting with situations that stretch but don't overwhelm current capacity. Building confidence through successful navigation of these challenges. This courage development often begins through intentional practices of approaching rather than avoiding manageable discomfort, identifying specific growth edges where important values lie just beyond current comfort zones. These explorations gradually transform your relationship with discomfort from signal to avoid into opportunity to expand. Meaningful achievement requires not just initial courage, but sustained resilience, the capacity to maintain motivation and effort through inevitable setbacks, plateaus, and difficulties that accompany any significant endeavor. Consider how crucial this persistence is for meaningful accomplishment in any domain. Mastering complex skills involves frustrating periods where progress seems minimal despite continued effort. Your relationship with difficulty and disappointment profoundly influences what becomes possible in your life. Some people naturally interpret setbacks as valuable feedback that informs improved approaches rather than evidence of personal inadequacy or insurmountable obstacles. Neuroscience research on learned helplessness and its reversal provides insight into why resilience develops through experience rather than mere encouragement. When you repeatedly encounter situations where persistence eventually leads to success despite initial failure, you develop neural patterns of optimistic persistence. Developing resilience involves cultivating both realistic persistence and flexible adaptation, continuing effort toward valued goals while remaining willing to adjust specific methods based on feedback about what's working and what isn't. This resilience development often begins through intentional practices of constructive response to setbacks, analyzing difficulties for specific learning rather than global judgment, identifying aspects within your control versus external factors. These explorations gradually transform your relationship with obstacles from discouraging barriers into valuable teachers, creating resilient determination that increases rather than diminishes through engagement with obstacles. At the deepest level, sustaining motivation through extended challenges requires purpose, connection with meanings and values that transcend immediate gratification or personal achievement alone. This purposeful dimension creates context that transforms activities from mere accomplishment into meaningful contribution, sustaining motivation through connection with something larger than personal comfort or success. Consider how profoundly purpose changes the experience of effort and challenge. Activities that seem burdensome when performed solely for personal gain often become energizing when connected with service to others or expression of deeply held values. Discomforts that seem pointless when endured without larger context become meaningful sacrifices when understood as necessary for contributing to significant purposes. Without this purposeful dimension, even impressive achievements may feel hollow despite objective success. Your relationship with meaning and purpose dramatically impacts sustainable motivation. Some people maintain continuous connection with how their efforts contribute to others' well-being or express important values, naturally experiencing daily activities within context of larger significance. Others struggle to connect immediate actions with meaningful purpose, experiencing work as mere economic necessity or personal ambition without deeper significance. These differences profoundly influence both quality of experience and sustainability of effort across inevitable challenges. Neuroscience research on eudaimonic versus hedonic well-being demonstrates the crucial importance of this purposeful dimension. When you engage in activities connected with meaningful contribution or authentic values expression, your brain activates distinct neural patterns associated with sustained positive affect and resilience. This difference helps explain why purpose-driven individuals often demonstrate remarkable capacity to endure hardship that would overwhelm those motivated solely by personal comfort or achievement. Developing purposeful connection involves both clarification of core values and conscious linking of daily activities with these deeper meanings, identifying what truly matters beyond social status or material acquisition, exploring how specific actions contribute to these meaningful purposes. Recognizing the ripple effects of your efforts beyond immediate outcomes, and connecting with communities that share and reinforce these values. This purposeful orientation transforms motivation from solely personal drive to participation in something larger than individual achievement alone. This purpose development often begins through reflection practices that clarify core values, identifying when you felt most alive and engaged, recognizing what you'd want to be remembered for beyond achievements or possessions, exploring what issues or causes naturally evoke emotional response, and considering what unique contributions your particular gifts and experiences might offer to others. These explorations gradually reveal authentic purposes that resonate beyond social expectations or conditioned ambitions, connecting motivation with deeper currents of meaning